Hey everyone, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing something a little different today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the tech world,
Okay.
but not just like the new phones and computers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're going a little bit deeper and
And
talking about the forces that shape the technology we use every day.
oh, okay.
So the source material for today's deep dive is an article called
Wow.
12 Things Everyone Should Understand About Tech
Cool.
by Anil Dash.
It
And
sounds
we've
interesting.
got a great expert here with us today
Oh, thanks.
who's going to help us kind of connect the dots and really understand
Yeah.
the why behind the what of all of this.
Yeah, that's important to
Exact.
go beyond just the gadgets and stuff.
Right, exact.
Get to the heart of it.
So Dash's first point that he makes in this article is that tech is not neutral.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this is something that I think is really important to consider
Yeah.
because it's not always obvious, right?
Not at all.
Be very subtle,
Abs-
the ways in which technology kind of shapes our lives.
Right. We often think of technology as just a tool,
Hmm.
but it's so much more than that. The values of the people
Yeah.
who create technology are embedded in every aspect of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you think about it like city planning.
Oh, yeah.
Like the way that a city is laid out
Mm-hmm.
can influence traffic flow.
Sure.
You might not even notice the way the streets are laid out,
Right.
but it's subtly guiding you towards certain destinations.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And with technology, those subtle design choices can impact everything
Mm-hmm.
from your privacy to your online behavior.
Absolutely. Like, think about the
Mhm.
trend towards square photos on social media.
Sure.
It seems like a small thing, but
But it's connected to how algorithms process images
exactly.
and how platforms are optimized for advertising.
Right. And even how we frame our experiences when we take pictures.
It changes how we see the world almost.
It really does.
Yeah.
And another example is the always-on microphones in so many devices now.
Yeah.
And, they offer convenience.
Sure, for like voice assistants and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But they also raise concerns
Yeah.
about constant surveillance and data collection.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely become more aware of recently,
Mhm.
and it's a little unsettling. I find myself wondering, like,
Yeah.
what are some ways that technology is influencing my behavior
Yeah.
without me even realizing it?
It's a good question to ask.
Yeah, and so Dash's next point is that tech is not inevitable.
Okay.
And this, I think, is a really important point because
Yeah.
we often fall into this trap of thinking about technology as this unstoppable force.
Right. Like it's just going to keep marching forward.
Yeah, and that it's always making things better.
Yeah.
But the reality is far more complex than that.
Absolutely.
Technological progress is often about trade-offs.
Mm.
And just because something is newer or shinier doesn't mean it's going to be
Yeah.
universally adopted or even beneficial.
Yeah. Think about all the social media platforms.
That have come and gone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how many people remember MySpace?
I mean, yeah, MySpace was huge.
Huge for a time, and then
Yeah. And then it just kind of disappeared.
yeah, the evolution of technology is so unpredictable.
Right.
It's kind of like evolution in nature, I
Yeah.
think. There are these unexpected twists and turns,
Mm-hmm.
dead ends, and even advancements that seem promising at first,
Yeah.
but end up having all these unforeseen consequences.
Yeah. And speaking of unintended consequences,
Oh, right.
Dash also points out that good intentions don't always equal good outcomes.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a little bit sobering.
It is because,
Yeah.
I think most people working in tech genuinely want to make a positive impact.
Yeah.
They're driven by this desire to solve problems
Mm-hmm.
and improve lives.
Mm-hmm.
But the rapid pace of innovation can sometimes outpace our ability to fully consider the ethical implications.
Mm-hmm.
And so a technology developed with the best of intentions.
Right. Can still have unintended negative consequences.
Yeah. And so how do we navigate that, right?
Right.
Like, are we just at the mercy of these rapid advancements?
Well, I don't think he's suggesting that we pump the brakes on progress or anything.
Yeah.
But he really emphasizes the importance of holding tech creators accountable
Yeah.
for those unintended consequences.
So it's about being more critical
Exactly.
and asking those tough questions about the potential impact
Yeah.
of new technologies, not just blindly accepting them because they're new and exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to another really interesting point that Dash makes.
Okay.
He talks about tech's forgotten history.
Mm.
He argues that there's a real lack of
Okay.
readily available and accurate documentation of tech history.
Interesting.
It's like we have this collective amnesia
Wow.
about the successes and failures that came before.
Yeah, it's like each new generation of tech creators thinks
Yeah.
they're inventing the wheel for the first time.
Right,
My
exactly.
goodness.
And that can be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it can, because
Yeah.
without understanding the past,
Right.
we're more likely to repeat the mistakes.
Yeah, think about all the privacy scandals we see
Oh, yeah.
over and over again with social media companies.
All the time.
Right, like, haven't we learned anything?
Right, it's the same mistakes
Yeah.
being made again and again.
Yeah, and Dash argues that this lack of historical awareness is actually hindering the tech industry's ability
Right.
to learn and evolve in a responsible way.
That makes sense.
He uses this example of how certain apps succeed while others fail. There are usually underlying reasons,
Yeah.
but those get lost over time.
We forget.
Yeah.
It's like we're missing these crucial pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
And so it's harder to see the bigger picture
Yeah,
and make informed decisions about the future.
exactly. And speaking of making informed decisions,
Okay.
Dash also raises concerns about the ethics gap in tech education.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So he points out that most tech education programs
Yeah.
don't include much in the way of ethical training.
So, like, there's no ethics course for engineers.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's such a stark contrast
Right.
to fields like law or medicine.
Totally, where ethics are, like,
Yeah.
baked into everything.
Yeah, like lawyers have to study legal ethics.
Right.
Doctors take the Hippocratic Oath.
Exactly.
But it seems like with tech, it's often just like full speed ahead.
Yeah, just build it.
Yeah, without much consideration for the potential societal impacts.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a big deal because as we've been discussing,
Yeah.
technology is far from neutral.
Right.
The choices that tech creators make can have
Yeah.
huge real-world consequences. And
Yeah.
it's like giving someone incredibly powerful tools
Right.
without teaching them about responsibility or the potential harm.
Or, like, the potential unintended consequences.
Right, exactly. And this lack of ethical awareness can lead to products and services that perpetuate biases,
Yeah.
harm vulnerable communities, or erode our privacy without us even realizing it.
It's scary to think about.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
how can we expect tech to serve humanity if we're not teaching the people
That's the question.
who create it to think critically
Right.
about the human impact of their work?
Yeah, and that kind of leads into
Yeah.
another key point that Dash makes
Okay.
about tech's blind spot.
Okay, what does he mean by that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of ironic, but the
Uh-huh.
people creating technology are often seen as these experts,
Mm-hmm.
but they may not have a deep understanding
Okay.
of the real needs and challenges
Yeah,
of the
fair.
people they're trying to serve.
So it's like designing a car
Right,
without ever considering what it's like to be a driver.
exactly. And this disconnect can lead to products that just
Yeah.
completely miss the mark.
Yeah.
They fail to address real-world problems or even create new ones.
And he points out that this problem is often exacerbated
Yeah,
by the lack of diversity in the tech industry,
absolutely.
right? If the people building the technology
Right.
don't represent the diversity of the people using it,
Yeah, then you're going to have blind spots.
there are going to be blind spots. Yeah.
For sure.
And it's not just about demographics either.
Right.
No, it's
Yeah,
about it's about having diverse perspectives,
exactly.
lived experiences and ways of thinking represented
Mm-hmm.
in that design process.
Yeah,
This is crucial for creating technology
right.
that truly serves everyone.
It's not just a small group of people
sure.
who are benefiting.
Yeah, so it's not enough to be brilliant cutters,
Right?
right? You also need empathy.
Yeah, you need to be able to put
Yeah.
yourself in other people's shoes.
Yeah, a willingness to listen and a deep understanding
Mm-hmm.
of the communities you're trying to impact.
Yeah, you got to do your research.
Yeah,
You got to get out there and talk to people.
yeah. And this ties into Dash's next point beautifully,
Okay.
where he challenges the lone genius myth.
Oh, yeah.
This
I've
idea.
heard that so many times.
Yeah, right. Like this idea of a single brilliant mind,
The lone inventor.
right? The lone inventor coming up with
Yeah.
world-changing inventions in isolation.
Their garage or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's a captivating narrative,
It is.
but it's often a distortion of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, tech innovation is rarely a solo act.
Right.
It's a collaborative process,
Yeah.
building on the work of countless individuals and shaped by community values.
It's like this whole ecosystem
Yeah.
that contributes to these innovations.
Yeah, even something as iconic as the iPhone,
Right.
which is often attributed to Steve Jobs.
Yeah. Like he was the visionary,
Right.
but it wasn't just him.
He was the culmination of work
Right.
by countless engineers, designers, and researchers.
Absolutely.
Not to mention decades of advancements in computing, user interface design, and mobile technology that paved the way.
It's like standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
But we often forget about all the giants who
Well,
came before.
right. And that's where Dash reminds us that those the people who create technology aren't working at flashy startups.
Right.
The startup world with its venture capital funding and rapid growth gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's what we see in the headlines and the movies and stuff.
But it's only a small slice
Right.
of the overall tech landscape.
Yeah, the majority of people creating technology work in very different environments.
Yeah.
Large corporations, government agencies, small businesses, you name it.
And recognizing the diversity of these workplaces helps us develop, I think, a more balanced view of the tech industry and its impact on society.
Absolutely.
And understanding those different work environments and motivations is crucial when we start talking about how big tech makes money, which is exactly what Dash dives into next.
The money.
He says there are 3 primary business models driving big tech.
Okay, let's hear it.
Advertising, selling to big businesses, and direct sales to individuals.
Interesting. So like 3 very different approaches.
Yeah, and understanding these models is key to seeing how they influence the design of the products that we use every day.
Yeah, because ultimately they have to make money somehow, right?
Yeah.
So how are they doing it?
And it influences how those products work.
Yeah.
For example, companies that rely on advertising revenue often design their products to maximize data collection
Makes sense.
and user engagement,
Right.
which can have unintended consequences for our privacy and attention spans.
Yeah, because they need to keep us hooked so that they can show us more ads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So think about all the free apps that you use, social media, news aggregators, even games.
Yeah.
Their business model often revolves around collecting data about your behavior and selling that information to advertisers who want to target you with personalized ads.
It's all about the data.
It's all about the data.
It stays.
Yeah, and it's a subtle form of influence
It is.
that a lot of people aren't even aware of.
Yeah.
It's like we're trading our attention and our data
Right.
for the convenience of using these free services.
It's a trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
For sure.
Yeah, and it raises a lot of questions, I think,
Yeah.
about the true cost of free technology.
Right. Is anything really free?
Right? Is anything truly free?
It's a good question.
That's something I'm definitely going to be thinking about more.
Yeah, me too.
But let's dive into the specifics of those 3 business models
Okay.
and how they shape the tech landscape
Sounds good.
when we come back in part 2.
I'm ready. Welcome back to our deep dive, into Anil Dash's 12 things everyone should understand about tech.
Yeah. Before we jumped into those 3 business models,
Yeah.
I think it's good to just keep in the back of our minds
Oh, yeah.
the idea that, like, even the best intentions in tech can have unexpected outcomes.
Right. Even if they're trying to do the right thing,
Exactly.
it doesn't always work out that way.
Right. So it's like good intentions don't always equal good outcomes.
Exactly.
Good. So as we explore these business models and how they kind of play out in the real world,
Yeah.
it's good to remember that.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. It's kind of unsettling to think that even like
Yeah.
well-meaning developers
Yeah.
might be creating products that ultimately don't serve our best interests.
Right. That's the scary part.
So let's break down those business models
Okay.
that Dash outlines, and we'll start with advertising,
Okay.
since that feels pretty relevant to most of our
Yeah, that's it.
daily tech use.
We all experience
Right.
it.
Like pretty much everyone has experience with this, even if they don't.
Even if you don't realize it.
Realize it.
Yeah.
So,
It's the one you're probably most familiar with.
yeah.
Think about all the free apps and services you use
Yeah.
for social media, search engines, news websites.
Uh-huh.
Their primary source of revenue is often advertising.
Yeah. Which means those companies are incentivized to collect as much data about you as possible.
Exactly. Your browsing history, your location, your interactions, it's all valuable information that can be used to target you with personalized ads.
And it's not just about showing you ads either, right?
No, it's about keeping you engaged.
Yeah.
Keeping you scrolling, keeping you clicking.
Right.
That's how they maximize their ad revenue.
It's like we're all caught in this attention economy.
Yeah, we're all just eyeballs
Yeah.
to these companies.
Constantly bombarded with notifications and updates
Yeah.
designed to keep us glued to our screens.
They don't want us to look away for a second.
And it can be exhausting.
It is exhausting, but it's also incredibly effective.
It is. It's very effective. And that brings us to Dash's critique of the venture capital model. This is something I remember thinking this was like a bit dense when I first read the article.
It can be a little bit complicated.
So can you help break down, like, why does this matter
Sure.
to the average person?
So venture capital in a nutshell is a type of investment that funds startups, usually those with high growth potential. And while this model has fueled some incredible innovations, it also comes with some downsides that ultimately impact the user experience.
Like what? Give me a concrete example.
Think about the last time you used an app that felt cluttered with features you never use, or a social media platform that seemed designed to keep you scrolling endlessly.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, we've all been there.
How does that connect to venture capital?
So venture capitalists are looking for a big return on their investment. And that often means pushing startups to grow really quickly, sometimes at the expense of a quality user experience.
So instead of focusing on building a product that genuinely meets user needs, the pressure is on to acquire as many users as possible, as quickly as possible, to boost the company's valuation.
It's all about growth and getting to that IPO.
So it's less about the user and more about bottom line.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. And that can lead to a focus on metrics, like daily active users or engagement time. Even if those metrics don't necessarily translate to a positive experience for the individual user.
So they're focused on like the numbers, but not necessarily the quality.
Not the quality of the experience.
It's like the old saying, you get what you pay for. But in this case, you might be paying with your attention, your data, even your mental well-being.
It can be pretty insidious. When you think about it.
It is. It's like a trade-off that I think a lot of us are making without even realizing it.
We're not always aware of it.
So Dash encourages us, I think, to be more mindful of the technology we use and the companies we support.
Exactly. Think about where your money's going.
So what's the alternative, right? Like, are we all doomed to be pawns in this attention-grabbing game?
Well, he doesn't offer a simple solution. But he does encourage us to be more critical consumers of technology.
So ask questions. Do your research. Support companies that
align with your values.
Okay, so it's about becoming more conscious of the forces that are shaping the tech landscape. And using our voices and our choices to advocate for a more ethical,
more user-centered approach.
Okay, now let's move on to the second business model that Dash discusses, which is selling to big businesses. This one, I think, is less visible to the average person, but it's a major force in the tech industry.
Oh, absolutely.
So instead of targeting individuals like you and me, these companies are going after larger organizations like corporations and government agencies.
Think of companies like Microsoft. Oracle, Salesforce. They make their money by selling software and services to these large organizations.
And what are some of the potential downsides of this model?
Well, one concern is that it can lead to a concentration of power in the hands of a few large tech companies, which can stifle competition and innovation.
So when a small number of companies dominate the market, they have a lot of control.
They have a lot of power.
Over pricing and product development.
They can set the prices. And they can decide what gets developed.
If there's no real competition, there's less incentive to innovate.
Exactly. Or offer competitive pricing.
And this can have downstream effects
it ripples down
on the products and services that are available to both individuals and smaller businesses.
We all feel the impact.
So even though this business model might not directly target us as individuals, it can still shape the tech landscape.
Oh, absolutely.
In ways that impact our choices and our experiences.
It's all connected.
It's all connected, Now, the third business model that Dash describes is direct sales to individuals. This one is pretty straightforward.
This is the one we're all probably most familiar with.
Companies make money by selling us products or services directly.
Exactly.
Like Apple selling iPhones or Amazon selling books.
You buy a product, you get what you paid for.
No hidden advertising schemes or complex enterprise software deals.
It's pretty transparent.
You just buy a product and you get what you paid for.
Exactly. And this model is often seen as more transparent and consumer-friendly than the advertising-driven model.
Because you have more control over your data and your privacy.
You're not relying on free services that are monetizing your information.
But there must be some drawbacks to this model too, right?
Of course, nothing's perfect.
Nothing's ever perfect.
One potential issue is that this model can lead to a race to the bottom on price as companies compete to offer the lowest prices to consumers.
Yeah.
And this can sometimes result in lower quality products or reduced investment in research and development.
That makes sense. It's tough to balance.
Yeah, you got to find that sweet spot.
Affordability with quality and innovation.
Exactly. And another concern is that this model can fuel a culture of consumerism. Where we're constantly encouraged to buy more stuff, even if we don't really need it.
The pressure to always have the latest gadget or upgrade to the newest model.
Exactly. The new iPhone comes out. Gotta get it.
And that constant cycle of consumption can be harmful to both our wallets.
And the environment.
Yeah,
all those e-waste.
It's a reminder that even when a business model seems more straightforward, there are still complex issues.
There always are.
And potential downsides to consider.
Yeah, there's no easy answers here.
So we've got these three main ways that big tech companies make money.
Yeah, let's recap.
Advertising, selling to businesses, and direct sales to individuals.
Right.
And each one has its own set of implications for consumers, for the market, for the direction of tech innovation.
It's a complex ecosystem.
Yeah, but Dash doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
He goes on to talk about how these business models are influenced by the venture capital world.
Right, which, as we discussed earlier, can create some pretty intense pressures.
And that pressure can sometimes lead to decisions that prioritize profit.
Yeah, over user well-being.
Or
long-term sustainability.
Yeah,
they're thinking short-term.
Yeah, it's like this constant drive for growth and bigger returns for investors.
Yeah, got to keep those investors happy.
Yeah, it can sometimes overshadow other important considerations.
Like ethics.
Like ethical design or user privacy.
Yeah, those are important too.
Right.
But they don't always get the attention they deserve.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even though technology can be incredibly powerful and transformative, it's still ultimately driven by human choices.
Exactly.
Motivation.
They people.
And those choices have consequences.
They do.
Which is why Dash argues that we need to be more critical consumers of technology and advocate for a more ethical
and sustainable
approach.
Right.
So it's about recognizing the power dynamics at play, asking tough questions, and demanding
better
from the companies that are shaping the future of technology.
Exactly.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about something a little lighter.
All right, I like it.
Tech's fashion sense.
Tech fashion. What is that?
Yeah. So Dash points out that the tech world is surprisingly susceptible to trends and fads.
Oh, like fashion trends.
Yeah. Just like any other industry.
Interesting.
I'm imagining Silicon Valley developers
I know, right?
strutting down a runway.
Like with their...
in their latest tech-inspired outfits.
Yeah, their hoodies and their sneakers.
But what does he actually mean by tech's fashion sense?
Yeah, so he's referring to the way that trends and fads can influence decisions about programming languages, tools, and even work methodologies. So it's not always about choosing the most efficient or effective option.
Right.
It's often about choosing what's considered cool or cutting edge.
Oh, so it's like how certain fashion trends come and go, and suddenly everyone's wearing
bell-bottoms
or platform shoes. Yeah. Even if they're not the most practical choices.
Not the most practical, but you got to look good.
You got to look good.
Right.
So in the tech world,
how
does this, like, fashion choice actually impact?
Okay, so good, the average user.
Think about the constant push towards new programming languages or frameworks. While some of these advancements offer genuine benefits, others might be driven more by hype than practical considerations.
And how does that affect me, the person using the app or website built with that language?
Well, if a company chooses a trendy language that's not well suited for the task at hand, it could result in a slower, buggier, or less secure product. Or it might simply mean that developers are spending more time learning the latest hot language instead of focusing on building a user-friendly and reliable product.
So it's like choosing style over substance.
Exactly.
But in the context of software development.
Right. Form over function.
Yeah.
And it highlights the fact that the tech world, for all its focus on logic and efficiency, is still driven by human desires and social pressures.
We're all human.
Yeah, we want to be seen as innovative.
Right.
We want to be part of the in crowd.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes lead to decisions that are in the best interest of users.
Or the long-term health of the industry.
Yeah. So even in this seemingly rational world of tech,
Right.
human psychology and social dynamics still play a role.
They do.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
And a little unsettling at times.
It is a little bit.
To be honest. But Dash doesn't leave us hanging.
No, he
doesn't. All
doesn't.
these complex issues and potential downsides.
He offers us a path forward.
He does offer a path forward.
Yeah.
So what can we as individuals do to make a difference?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Right. We're not
all coding wizards.
Coding wizards or tech CEOs. Where do we even begin?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one we'll explore in more detail
when
we return for the final part of our deep dive into Anil Dash's 12 things everyone should understand about tech.
Right.
We'll discuss specific actions you can take
to
advocate for a tech future that's more aligned with your values.
All right, sounds good. I'm excited to talk about solutions.
Me too.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking Anil Dash's 12 things everyone should understand about tech, and honestly, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride.
It really makes you think differently about the apps and gadgets we use every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've gone from the subtle ways tech design influences us to the business models that drive the industry and even the role of venture capital in shaping innovation.
Yeah, and we've talked about some pretty unsettling realities like the lack of historical awareness in tech and the ethics gap in tech education. But Anil Dash doesn't leave us hanging with all this complex stuff.
Right.
He offers a path forward.
He does offer a path forward. So let's talk about solutions. What can we as individuals do to make a difference? We're not all coding experts or tech executives.
Right.
Where do we even begin?
Well, Dash emphasizes that understanding these forces shaping tech is just the first step.
Okay.
The next step is action, and that starts with becoming more conscious consumers of technology.
Okay, what does that look like in practice? I'm picturing myself meditating over my phone, trying to achieve tech zen.
Well, it's less about meditation and more about asking questions.
Okay.
When you're considering a new app or gadget, don't just download it or buy it without thinking. Take a moment to consider the business model behind it.
Yeah.
Who's profiting from your data? What are the potential trade-offs in terms of privacy or security?
It's like reading the fine print, but for our digital lives.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming a tech expert overnight. It's about gradually building your awareness and making more informed choices.
So we've got individual action.
Right.
What about collective action? What can we do to make a bigger impact?
Well, supporting organizations that are advocating for digital rights, ethical AI, and responsible tech development is a great way to amplify your voice and contribute to the movement for a more ethical tech landscape.
It's about voting with our wallets and our voices.
Absolutely.
We can choose to support companies that align with our values, and we can speak up about the issues that matter to us.
And that leads into Dash's next point, engaging directly with tech creators.
Oh.
Don't be afraid to reach out to companies and ask questions.
Yeah?
Share your concerns and demand better from the products and services you use.
Yeah, it's easy to feel powerless when you're just one person in a sea of millions of users.
Sure.
But collective action can create real pressure for change.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that tech creators are people too.
Yeah.
Many of them genuinely want to make a positive impact on the world, but they're working within systems and structures that can sometimes prioritize profit over people.
Right, so it's not necessarily about villainizing tech companies or developers.
No, it's about working together.
It's about working together to create a tech ecosystem that benefits everyone.
It's about fostering a dialogue, holding each other accountable, and working collaboratively to build a better future.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to revisit one of Dash's points that particularly resonated with me. It's the idea that we often have a very ahistorical view of technology, focusing solely on the latest and greatest, while forgetting the lessons of the past.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly chasing the shiny new object without ever stopping to ask, what can we learn from what came before?
And that lack of historical context can be dangerous, right? It prevents us from seeing patterns, identifying potential pitfalls, and making more informed decisions about the future.
Exactly. Think about all the data privacy scandals that have rocked the tech world in recent years. How many of those situations could have been avoided if we paid closer attention to the lessons learned from similar incidents in the past?
So what's the takeaway here? Should we all become tech historians?
Well, it's not about becoming experts in tech history, but it is about cultivating a sense of historical perspective. When we encounter a new technology, it's worth asking, what came before this? What were the successes and failures of those earlier attempts? And how can we apply those lessons to create something better?
It's about recognizing that innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
It's built on a foundation of ideas, experiments, and lessons learned from those who came before us.
And that historical awareness can help us to make more informed decisions about the technologies we support, the companies we invest in, and the kind of digital future we want to create.
So it's about connecting the dots between the past, the present, and the future of technology.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing that technology is not just a collection of tools or gadgets. It's a story that we're all writing together.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and it reminds us that we all have a role to play in shaping that story.
The future of tech is not predetermined. It's a work in progress, and the choices we make today will shape the chapters to come.
So let's choose wisely. Let's advocate for a tech future that is ethical, sustainable, and empowering for all.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Anil-Dash's insights. We hope it sparked some new ideas and inspired you to think more critically about the role of technology in your own life and in the world around you.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic.